All right. Well, welcome everybody. Good to see you, many of you, for the first time in a while. And just give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you can't hear me, but or a thumbs up if you can. So we're going to give it just a few community updates. We wanted to make sure we give everyone a chance to gather before the holiday. And before I forget, on that note of gathering, I put this in the chat as well. To keep an eye out for an email. I think it should probably come through School Messenger to the individual, to your cohort for your grade level, but we've been working on having grade level meetings for families, family meetups, which we talked about at the beginning of the year, just giving people an opportunity to connect within their grade cohort and share resources and support one another. And we'll just kind of start that organically. We have parent volunteers lined up for each grade level, and try to keep those going through the year as much as they're helpful. And then we'll sort of have a central place to share any resources or information to cross-pollinate between the grade level meetings. So I just wanted to mention that up front. And I'm going to do a land acknowledgement, and then we'll go into our reviewing our minutes and our updates. We acknowledge the land we are on which we meet today as the traditional home of the Coast Salish peoples, including the Tuwamish, Suquamish, Muckleshoot, Tulalip, and Snoqualmie nations. We also acknowledge Chief Leschi of the Nisqually Nation, for whom our school is named, for being a strong leader and protector of Native people, land, and rights. We recognize and give thanks to the people of these great nations who remain an integral part of our community. Okay, so we'll just move quickly to approve the minutes from the last meeting. And I think I sent them out over email earlier, and also put a link in the chat here. And those, for anyone who's not familiar, we always post minutes from both our board meetings, which are always open to everybody, as well as our general community meetings. And I'll send a link out later this week to the shared drive where everyone can find those. So I'm going to assume and hope that there's enough folks who've at least glanced at those minutes. So if someone could move to approve those minutes.
I move to approve the minutes.
All right, we have a second.
Second.
All right. All in favor, if you've read them.
Aye.
And there is video as well, so you can go back and fact check if you want. All right, so let me turn it over to Katie Busby and Kelly Smith for a quick update on Giving Garland.
Sure. Hi, I'm Katie Busby, for those who don't know me. This year, we're supporting 100 families at our school with the Giving Garland, where we're providing, or we've offered, a coat and gifts for all the children in the household, and a grocery gift card and some clothing gift card to the parents. We really need people to push that information out to their social communities to get more people purchasing gifts from the Amazon wish list and the Snapdoodle Toys wish list. We also need gift cards to the stores listed in my email, and I'm happy to send that out again, or just cash donations, and we can get shoppers to go and get stuff. I also need 1 or 2 shoppers for the last items that we need to pick up or order. So if I have anyone of interest there, just email me or put it in the chat and let me know. But if you have any questions, let me answer them. Anybody?
Katie, I bought something and I got an email from Snapdoodle that I was supposed to pick it up. And
Oh no, yeah, sorry. That's the one confusing thing about Snapdoodle. They're just piling all the stuff in a room for me, and I'm going to go pick it up every Sunday. So if you've bought anything from Snapdoodle, or or a friend has done it, just tell them that I will be driving over there and grabbing everything. So thank you for doing that. I love Snapdoodle because it's a local business. We're not getting a whole bunch of boxes sent to my house. So I feel good about that partnership, but it's a little clunky.
Katie, can you speak to the maybe just kind of the difference in number of families this year? I think
Yes.
just to underscore the importance of people really sharing this out with their networks.
Yes, last year we supported 55 families, and this year we're over 100. And last year we had 42 on our list, and then we were able to add a number of families from the wish list, the wait list, right at the end, because we had some things that didn't match up with families and we had extra. And so we were able to support that many more families. But now with 100 families of people asking specifically for things, the need is so much higher. And not being in person, normally we have a wreath outside the office where you see these wish list items and people can grab them. But when you don't see that on a regular basis, we're not getting that traffic that people normally do for the Giving Garland. So that's why, like, pushing out, Natalie posted it on our Facebook page. I'm going to resend the email after this meeting, so you can just forward an email with the links. Gifts and gift cards or cash donations can be dropped off at the school between 8 and 2, Monday through Thursday, or sent to my house, and my address is in the email.
Well, Katie and Kelly and everyone helping you, thank you. It's always a Herculean task, but especially this year. So we all appreciate it. Yes, if there are any other questions, just shoot Katie a note. And could I also ask if, since not everyone's name, or we might have your child's name in the chat, so if you don't mind, put your name in the chat, and that way we can be sure to capture accurately who everyone is. If it's, yeah, we can all log in, because I don't always trust Zoom to capture the participants. Okay. Well, on a related note, wanted to give a quick update on family support. We always have a budget set aside as a PTA for family support in the course of a normal year. And as many of you know, when the quarantine and shutdown occurred in the spring, we looked at our budget, moved as many funds as we could and things that weren't going to be used in the remainder of the year, and also did additional fundraising in the spring. And we've been able to use those funds starting in early spring and throughout the summer and up until now, primarily for rent or utility support or other bill support for families that are referred primarily through Mr. Donaldson or Miss Reese or Mr. Liu now and others at the school. And the teachers have been helping all along since the spring in terms of helping keep tabs and making those are, you know, when they're in touch with families, making sure they know what resources are available. An important part of that is also just making sure that families have access to other services, since there's only so much we as a PTA with a small budget can do, but we are trying to help where we can, and rent support is something where we have a little more flexibility and less red tape than going through other processes. So we've done probably about $35,000 in terms of rent and utility support since March or April. And we will address, we're not going to have a significant budget update, but I'll turn it to Aaron and Eli in a moment. But suffice to say, the funds within family support are starting to dwindle. We've already, you know, communicated, some families we've helped more than once, but we've communicated out that, you know, from the beginning that wouldn't necessarily be long-term or something we could do on a regular basis. Some funds had been used for hotspots and other, you know, before the hotspots were available from SPS and other ad hoc needs here and there, but the bulk has been rent and utility support. So we're continuing to do that. We might have to pare back on the support for individual families, and we'll see where we are when we get through the other side to the holidays, but we will probably be looking to do fundraising for that, as well as our broader either annual give or some other version of what would normally be our annual give, for looking to our budget for all activities, hopefully next year, in what we hope to be a more normal year, inshallah. So I'll turn it to Aaron and Eli if there's anything on that front that they wanted to add.
Thanks, Benson. Just to reiterate what Benson was saying here, we've spent to date in this fiscal year, which starts in the middle of summer, $36,600, and more than 31,000 of that was family support. So that's really the bulk of what's been happening so far. We do expect to spend a significant amount on our usual reimbursing teachers and staff for their incidental expenses. That just hasn't really picked up yet due to crazy year, but that will come. But so far, there's just not much to say about our budget. The income this year, again, this fiscal year starting midsummer, has been almost entirely contributions to family support and just recently to Giving Garland. So we haven't really done any of our usual fundraising, which has normally started by now. And that's what's really on my mind, because that's what will provide funds for us to be able to do stuff next year. So mostly what I want to say as not only your co-treasurer, but also the chair of the fundraising committee, is I could use some community support around both fundraising and budget conversations. And I'll be really clear up front, the support I need on fundraising committee, no one has to ask anyone else for money. I know that's like the big hurdle, is people are really uncomfortable. I need people to help me, get a letter put together and sent, and figure out what the date should be that we send this letter, and when we should end the campaign and things like that. I just need a group to help with that. No one has to ask anyone for money. And similarly, budget, starting January and February, we'll be beginning to think about what we want our activities and priorities to be next year. And the first conversations are, what's important to us? What do we want to do? And the second conversation is, what will it cost? And it's super important to me that we have anyone who has opinions about what we should be working on weighing in on those budget conversations. So that's what I would really love for January, February. And that's all I have for the finance report.
Great. Feel free to jump in whenever. I don't know if I'll track the chat, so if you raise your hand, please, or just chime in on the mic if you have any questions. Okay. So I also wanted to give a quick update, since it seems timely. There's a few things going on the front of SPS school board policies, and you may have seen a few emails from me since September or so. There's been a lot of activity on, particularly on a new SPS school board policy 0040, which is specifically an anti-racism, and I think the current title is an anti-racism, pro-Black and pro-Indigenous people policy. And this follows on an existing policy that's 0030 on educational and racial equity. And a number of us have been involved since the spring and following Ms. Molan's dismissal, in addition to calling attention to that situation and how she was treated, as well as the school community not being well communicated with. There's also a number of conversations around these policies and looking at structural change in SPS. So some of the asks that came from a group of people, including people on this call, PTA board members, equity team members, others who wanted to continue to advocate with the school board and beyond, and including community members too, were wanted to ask for more clarity on the existing policy 0030. And I put a link to that at the top of the chat here, an overview of 0030, which has a number of pillars, but it's student facing, but it also has a workforce element in terms of equitable hiring practices and promoting diversity. It's sort of a catch-all. And the trick with it is that even though it's all a lot of nice words, there hasn't been a procedure that goes with the policy, which means essentially it's lip service, but without a corresponding procedure that's the superintendent's procedure. There's no real implementation plan. So one of the asks in this letter that had gone around was to ask about sort of specific procedures around that. And I think it's not really due to our advocacy, but also coming out of all the other events of this spring and this year, that there had been a motion within the school board to adopt a procedure to go with 0030. So that has now happened in a vote last month. And it basically, but the amendment to the policy basically says this, so here's the policy, and now the superintendent has to create a procedure to actually do something. As far as I know, there is no timeline. So I don't know what that will mean in terms of more tangible implementation of the existing educational and racial equity policy, especially if there's open questions about the current superintendent and whether or not we'll have someone else in that position in a year's time. But I think on the more tangible and interesting front, this new policy, the anti-racism policy, was actually presented to the board in some form last year, or presented to SPS and kind of just was sat on. But there's been a lot of energy around it on this since the spring. And the link I posted in the chat is to the document from the work session that happened back in July. So there's a lot of information and kind of some analysis of the existing problems. It refers to the lack of procedures with the pre-existing policies, and it's much more specific in terms of how it wants to tackle racism and be specifically pro-Black and pro-Indigenous people. And again, a lot of words, but also calls specifically for procedures and measures to hold SPS as a whole and schools accountable to those policies. So I think a lot of you would find that interesting, and I mention it as well because the policy in its current draft form is going to be presented to the SPS school board at the December 16th meeting. So Manuela Sly, who's the president of the Seattle Council, PTSA, she and others have been working very hard on this. And so she said it will be up for presentation. I don't think it's going to be voted on or voted into place just yet, is my understanding. And we'll send some emails around about that too, for those who are interested. Any questions on that? I know that, sorry, there's a lot of numbers and, and jargon, but trying to explain how it fits together.
Benson, I have a question. Is there an ask for any kind of action around the 16th meeting, like emailing or showing up, or I don't know?
Yeah, good question. I'll ask Manuela. I think so far the main ask has really just been engagement, and that's the other distinction I think with this current policy 0040 is that as opposed to just as it's been described to me, the board put together 0030 and said these are all things that we should do, but this, as Manuela described it in one of the emails, this policy is born of community and has been created through a constant process of community engagement. So they did have a series of community engagement meetings with different affinity groups and one with teachers and one with families. And some of you might have seen, I'm sorry, I tried to get those out as soon as I saw them, but there wasn't a lot of notice in some cases, unfortunately. And so I think the ask, if there is one, is really just to continue to stay engaged and there's still time if there are comments, or things that people would want to bring to the table. I think SC PTSA is certainly happy to listen to all of their constituents, and you can reach out to them directly, but we're also happy to facilitate as a PTA board. So I can resend the latest email on that after this meeting. Any other questions? For the board or anyone else, anything I forgot to mention before we turn to sort of an open forum? And as you mentioned, we usually do appreciations more at the top of the meeting, but I figured we would fold those into the open forum and Q&A section. So for those who aren't familiar and we haven't had a more typical meeting in a while, in appreciations, we just anyone not compelled to speak, but especially this week after Thanksgiving, if there's anything or that a member of the community or a teacher has done or anyone else that you feel like should be called out, feel free to do that in the form of a statement or if in tandem with a question that you might have for Mr. Liu or any of the other. I think I saw Miss Mason on the line here. Mr. D is on. Miss Bamani is here. There might be a couple other teachers as well. So yeah, with that, I will turn it over and feel free to chime in as you wish.
I want to send out a big appreciation for the Thanksgiving effort that went out on behalf of families. That was a huge coordinated effort, starting with Mr. D, who keeps saying that this is young man's work. But I think he's still young, Anyways, it was a tremendous amount of meals that were picked up and delivered and coordinated and cared for and procured. Thanks also to Leschi Market, Blue Water, Michelle Reese, and the many, many volunteers. And thanks, Mr. Liu, for helping with all of it.
I want to say thank you to, even though she's not here, Miss Koyama, who delivers books to the students. And she came all the way down to Tequila and delivered them to my doorstep. And she actually kind of like hit the nail on the head with a couple of the titles. So I'm happy about that. No, that will, my gratitude extends. So if any of you see her, please let her know that was really much appreciated.
I'd like to second that. She drops books off to say why her and Mr. Gladney, Mr. Liu come up there, Miss Reese. And for the Thanksgiving, thank everybody who participated. We did, between 10 schools participated in picking stuff up at Leschi, so we did over 400 families during that time period. So it was a big effort. So Mr. Gladney, Ms. Stout, Mr. Liu, Kelly, Lexi, Dominic, everybody who was there. I mean, everybody partook in that, but it was a huge effort. And now just working on getting the same thing together for Christmas. So we'll see what happens there. But thank everybody for participating. It was a lot of work, but a lot of families had a nice Thanksgiving because of your hard work and getting the food out. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and if Mr. D, your line was breaking up, so if anyone didn't hear that, I think that was 10 schools, more than 400 families who were helped with Leschi as a hub. And so thanks again to everybody. Oh, and Mr. D, so the current plan for the winter break is that there will be, we didn't do backpacks over the Thanksgiving break, but that is the plan for the winter holiday, is that right?
Yeah, I was trying to get a hold of Rachel. Adrian, I think she sent me her number, I believe. So I had to check back and see. So I'll call her in the morning. Just got a little hung up today with all the other stuff, but I'll give her a call and see if we can get that done. But we do need those backpacks. It's very helpful for the 2 weeks when everybody's out of school. So I'll give her a call in the morning, but thank you for the number.
Great. Yeah, so those are backpacks full of meals and food, which in a normal year would replace what kids would be getting at school from school lunches or breakfasts, but would be a supplement for this year during the winter break as well.
Thank you, Katie, for working on the Giving Garland. I know it's a huge job, and I tried to call people for like one day and I got nowhere, and I don't know how she's doing it all. It's so much information. So thank you. Everyone really appreciates it, especially with all the people needing it this year. And like you said, we're not walking through the halls, so we'll get it going for you and for everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I just appreciate being on this call with everybody. Keep continuing to do the work. This is Michelle. Appreciate everybody at the ongoing efforts, even through COVID. I really, really appreciate Ben for just working and keeping some doing some different organization with how we already do certain things. So I appreciate you with that. And Katie, I appreciate you for handling working with Meanie, because you really didn't have to do that at all. Even though Mr. DB trying to feed everybody, but coordinating that was was important. And yeah, just overall, everybody that really pitched in, and we got more work to do. But I thank you all for everything that you do and everything that where your hearts are. And that's just what we want to be mindful of, the kids and families during the holiday season. So yes, appreciate this time for gratitude, because it's a lot going on. Thank you.
I would like to gratitude to, of course, Miss Michelle and Mr. D and everyone for putting together Thanksgiving. It was very weird being out of the building for me, because that's something that I've seen for the past 6 years, and not being involved was different. But I also want to give a shout out to the families and an appreciation for your grace and your thoughtfulness in giving feedback and ideas where I'm, a teacher might take an idea or not think of something. And I've got some great ideas from families who just listen into my classes and say, hey, try this. And I love everything about it. So I really appreciate the feedback and the concern and the grace that you're giving to us as we work in this new platform.
Hello, everyone. I hope you hear me.
Yes, Sadia, we can.
Sorry, guys, I haven't even say hi or introduce myself. This is my first week in meeting, but I'm there. So I appreciate it. I have been there for 6 years also in Leschi. So it's like if we are in lock, we are out of the building, I feel so good because the way I see all of you, you are supporting us. I don't know even how to say thank you. Even thank you now. All of you, you are doing a very good job. Thank you very much, guys. I appreciate it. It is the 6th year, but this is the only year I'm out of the bill, like Miss Bumani is saying, but it didn't feel weird because we have support. Especially Miss Sarah, she come and she knock the door, they bring all the materials. It feels like as if you have somebody. I don't have anybody in Seattle, but I feel so good that I had somebody who knocked my door during when I cannot visit anybody. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it very, very, very much, guys. I don't know how to say thank you to you.
Thank you, Sadia. And well, can I just say it's really good to see you, and I will offer my appreciation to you because for those who don't know Sadia, she's been a really important hub and conduit of information for us for a number of our families. And you speak both the Oromo and Somali, is that right?
I speak Somali, Oromo, Kiswahili, and Lita.
And English,
5 language. Just English, yeah.
So the number of times that I've been sort of, the pickups early in the year, and then Sadia was texting me and saying, I just talked to this person and they didn't quite, catch the email, or, can we get them something if they missed the pickup? So thank you for that. I mean, it's really been just an essential connection and exactly what I think we're all trying to do a lot more of.
Thank you very much.
I really want to give a shout out to Adrian Wiley and the reading intervention team this year. Sometimes in our house, remote school is a struggle, like to stay engaged with the lessons and the stuff that's going on. But small reading group is not a struggle. It's so, it's honestly joyful, and it's partly because Adrian's pretty joyful, but also I think the way that they've really like pulled together this year to target these just phonics-based reading and spelling skills is a delight. And I'm so thankful we have it, and thank you for doing it and so early in the year. And it's yeah, it's actually one of the bright spots of our remote school. Thanks.
Sorry, I forgot Miss Jessie. Never met her, but she's doing a really good job with reading. She's doing very good that my son can spell like in what we haven't did for past 3 years. So I'm so glad to her. I don't know if she's there, Miss Jessie.
And it's please feel free to keep going with appreciations, but don't also feel embarrassed if you're the first one to ask a question. We can always go back to appreciations. There's no rigid order here.
Well, and Benson, if I could, it wouldn't be a meeting without me having a PowerPoint ready. So if I could give a quick update, and then there will be definitely more time for questions and appreciations.
Great. I'll make you a co-host here.
Okay, great.
All right.
Great, thank you. Okay. Can you see the screen here that says thank you? So first of all, I just want to thank everyone for their participation in the family educator conferences that happened last week. You know, the partnership between school and home for our students is so important and so essential for this year, especially with remote learning. The last thing, just continue to reach out to me, to staff members, to the school if your family needs any support or there's any questions or concerns. Another big shout out to the PTA board members and community members who have purchased headphones and headsets for students. There was for these particular ones that have worked pretty well, there's been a limit to the number that families that, you know, a specific account can purchase on Amazon. And I just had one short conversation with Benson about this, and I was just overwhelmed by the amount of headphones that rolled in really quickly after that. And so thank you very much to everyone who has donated headsets, and we've already started handing them out. I wanted to give just a quick overview and report about the family survey that was sent out. This was in October, actually. And I know that some things have changed, but here are the things that are going well. And I really want to highlight, first of all, the staff who are on this call and the teachers and staff who are working so hard and doing a great job. There were so many responses, specifically giving shout outs to specific staff members, just being so impressed with how the teachers and staff have responded and recognizing that they're working really, really hard during remote schooling. Some other highlights are that students are really learning independence, learning a lot of things with tools. And, you know, a year ago, we probably wouldn't have our students be able to navigate muting, unmuting, turning on and off cameras and all of that. That was completely something that was not within our vocabulary last year at this time. But now, what's that?
Not to mention the parents. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I was on mute when I said that.
Oh, no. Right. Not to mention all the adults. And then overall communication from teachers in the school and having consistency with our schedule. So those are things that people have appreciated that's been going really well. Some of the things that can be improved, there's feedback about there's just a lot of information coming at every family, at every adult, and even students. And just the amount of emails, the amount of things in Schoology and Seesaw, that's feedback that I'll take to the staff, and we'll talk about how we can make improvements in that. Just that remote schooling is still challenging, requires adult supervision, depending on the age, depending on the student. Yeah, that's just something important to know. And we're gonna see how we can continue helping with that as far as like synchronous time, lessons, different engaging activities. There's also been a request for more opportunities for students to connect with each other, as well as more academic rigor, more small group time, and then more printed materials to decrease screen time. So those are some of the kind of themes as far as the feedback of what can be improved with remote schooling. And so these are things that I will be taking to the staff that we'll talk a little more about, brainstorm ways to address these things that have come up. And then the feedback about my leadership, that people like the consistent communication, the fact that I'm accepting and asking for both positive and critical feedback, and being responsive when questions or concerns arrive, and just being available at the grab and goes, meeting families, just listening to concerns and really helping out. The things that can be improved in my leadership is more support for teachers and staff who are anxious, who are frustrated, who are experiencing challenges. I definitely hear that, and I have a plan in place to continue reaching out to staff and meeting with teams as well to just check in with them and see how they're doing. Another idea was to create space for teachers to share their ideas. That was also something that the staff reported can be improved upon. And so we've started devoting some of our staff meeting time for just sharing out how things are going, what's going well, what can be improved on, and brainstorming ideas. The Teams Zoom conversation that came up in the survey, and I'll be honest that there were actually like different opinions about that, as far as the consistency would be nice if the whole school were using the same platform, and there were also families that felt that what we were using since the start of the year should just keep going, and why change something that's working. At the end of the day, I told teachers, I said that our focus is on teaching and learning, and conversations around what video conferencing platform we're using, that's not the priority. And so the priority really should be teaching and learning. And so I just made a decision that, I wasn't going to press it any further. And just understanding too, that making changes after the school year has started with the links and the platforms that families already know and that students already know can be really challenging. And then, with Benson's help and a few parents and community members, just creating those opportunities for families to connect with each other and with the school is also important. And so when those grade level meetings, those family meetings start happening, I also plan to pop in on those and just attend those just briefly, not to take up time, but really to see if there's any, pressing questions or concerns that grade level families have. And then also just improvements in boosting and building teacher and staff morale and community efforts. And those are things that are constantly on my mind, things I'm thinking about as far as how we can improve in that. And so I hope at a later time during either one of these community meetings or a PTA board meeting to report on kind of the action plan based on this feedback. So thank you to everybody. There were 55 responses to this survey. So just some quick updates. As a few people mentioned, the main office is open 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. each school day. I will send a message to families, and I'm sure the district will, if any further restrictions are placed by Governor Inslee, and if school office hours will change. And then I just wanted to bring awareness to, there's going to be a virtual community meeting sometime in December. I believe it's going to be about in 2 weeks. that will be held where I will be attending and just sharing a bit of information, but then a district team will be attending as well and will be presenting plans for a 4-classroom edition that's planned for Leschi that is scheduled to start next June. And so this will be a time for community feedback, questions, and other things. And as part of that 4-classroom edition, which is going to be on the north side of the building, the playground will actually be picked up and moved to the asphalt area. And there was some discussion and plans about where to place it so that it wouldn't disrupt flow and things like that. But that playground needs to be moved to make room for the 4-classroom edition. And I'll communicate when that meeting will be happening once I find out from the district team. The last thing is just elementary progress reports. Progress reports are not going to be mailed home. We're not going to have paper copies. Progress reports are going to be made available electronically on the source. And I understand the obstacle that poses to families. As a SPS parent, I rarely log into the source. In fact, like usually when I do, I have to reset my password because I don't remember what password I used. But the progress reports will be available by December 18th. And I'm working on some videos as well as some step-by-step directions and frequently asked questions sheet that I'll send to families about the progress reports, as well as just that information and a video on how to navigate to the source. And just some important information about that. But a few things to be aware of for the progress reports. The first is to expect more of the asterisks on your child's progress report. So we know that just during remote schooling, getting accurate assessment data from students can be challenging for teachers. And so there are going to be more of the boxes, the standards that will have an asterisk in it instead of the 1, 2, 3, or 4 point scale or the standards markings in them. And then teachers will be putting more information in the comments sections in the progress report. And then the last thing is there will be some attendance information on the progress report. Teachers might make comments about that, especially if we want to see students improve in attendance or things like that. That's for family information. And just so everyone knows that schools are being directed to hold off on any truancy related actions during remote schooling, because we know that we don't want this to be a time in which attendance is weaponized against families, in which students are withdrawn from school. It's important that this connection still exists for students and to support students and families. So thank you for indulging me. This is now time for any questions that you might have, any feedback, and then as Benson stated, just any more appreciations to share.
Just a note while people are formulating any other questions they have, also on the family connection front, you probably have received an email or two from your classroom teacher on the classroom directory. So to go hand in hand with grade level meetups. So if you hadn't opted into the directory and you want to, you would still have access to it. If you didn't want to share your information to try to anyone else who opts in, you'd be able to contact other classroom parents or guardians. And if you did send, some people signed a sheet at the beginning of the year and that first go home packet. Doesn't hurt to put your name, actually be great to put your name on the whatever your teacher sent to you. But I have those forms if you submitted one at the beginning of the year. So I'll sync those up with the teachers in those directories as well.
All right, everyone, this is an example of the Giving Garland packages. The delivery guy just came and there are like 20 boxes outside of my house. So it's a good time.
Do you need anyone to come over there right now with a mask?
Okay, I'm like, Katie, whoa.
I have my little worker. Her name's Lois, and she is a sorting machine.
Your elf on the shelf.
Yeah, my elf on the shelf. Her name is Lois.
Well, give us a minute or two, but we can go back to our other lives if there are no other questions. Mr. Liu, thanks again. Thank you for your transparency as well. I appreciate you sharing the survey results with everybody.
Yeah, Benson, this is Sarah. I just want to hop in and say, first off, thanks to the teachers. I know many of us are trying to work and support our kids from home and including them. And I learned so much from Miss Duell and Miss Woods and Miss Chin about just trying to be patient and not let the tech challenges get to you. And just the girls love logging on. So I am so appreciative of them. And Mr. Liu, I second to what Benson just said. Just thanks for being transparent and sharing all the results. It's super helpful and not seen as much as we should. So thank you.
Katie, did you say in your email, are you also going to put any of the specific volunteer opportunities, or is that just the call for donations and
yeah, I'm happy to. I'll put some volunteer possibilities in that email too. That would be helpful. Carly has already offered to do a little shopping, so I'm sending her the book list that we need to get purchased. Yeah, so I'll send that after this meeting. But I appreciate everyone's help.
Okay, any last reclamos? Really good to see everyone.
Yes, I just had a quick question on the family survey, because we have such a lot more than 55 students at the school, and families. Is that going to be coming out again? And that's one part question. And then my other part of that question is that family survey to help you create, because you're a new principal, or is that just something that you did overall, or is that a district driven, or everybody gets that? Is that how does that work?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle, for the question. So the first part is there will be more family surveys coming. I know that, at the time that I sent out this survey link, there was also the district pulse survey that came out. And, as an SPS parent, I responded to that. But I mean, also, I don't even know what the results are. I would hope that that as a school leader, the district would share the results from Leschi, but I also think that, I don't know, I think the responses might have been collected anonymously as well. And so there will be more surveys just because I think it's important that we survey families. And I think, I've also, Mr. D had talked about having surveying the students, which is also very, very important and essential. And I feel like that is something that we also need to plan for this year, to really get a gauge of how things are going and how students are feeling. So yes, expect more surveys. As far as for me and my leadership, this is just a practice that I've done. I know that the district has its, panorama surveys that they've done in past years, but that's usually once a year. And the questions and the sometimes the way the questions are worded aren't necessarily conducive to just a question of like what can be improved overall with a text box where people can kind of give lots of ideas. But I also feel as a school leader, it's important for me to just have that information, have the feedback. But I think the more important part of a survey is reporting on the results of the feedback, and also talking about what next steps and what action plans are we going to put in place based on the feedback that we're receiving, or based on the feedback I'm receiving from my leadership. So thank you, Michelle, for that question.
Steve, I just had a thought while you were sharing the results of the survey, which is that just when you're talking about the part about supporting teachers, and especially just knowing that there's a range of experiences that teachers and staff are having too this year, and their own like environments at home and whatever else they're all dealing with too. And then I was just thinking about what you said about how Benson and you had a conversation about the headphones, and then voila, there were lots of headphones at school. And I think this group of parents, like it's one of those weird years where, like Erin said, we're doing, we're putting budget money toward family support. And I also am just thinking about like, sometimes when there's like in-person school, we have Teacher Appreciation Week in May or April or whenever it is. But really, I think it's kind of that same, like, we'd love to get creative and think about how we can acknowledge and lift up our staff. And we know you're thinking about that already, but we would like to think about it too. How we can, just how we can appreciate and acknowledge and lift up our staff. So I guess my ask is like, first of all, for your ideas, like if you have specific ideas, and then also maybe we need to get together and think about our specific ideas too.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks, Kelly, for that. And it's something I've already started planning for staff, but and in general, just making sure that staff feel appreciated. But I also think that it'd be great to have a coordinated effort, and also to think about like how can we do that multiple times a year, knowing that even when we're in person, it's like Staff Appreciation Week or is usually like a week or like, a specific day for certain staff members and all of that. And like, how can we do that on an ongoing basis to really help, like you said, lift them up, lift up the work that they're doing. And really
I noticed during conferences, I'm sorry, Steve, I noticed during conferences, like a couple times during the conference, I mean, I know that obviously like, it's not perfect, right? There's lots of things for everyone that probably feel like issues or like less than ideal. But when we gave our teachers, like Teachers for 3 Kids, a lot of positive, like, thank you so much, that these are things I've been noticing. A couple of them almost seemed like shocked to receive it. And they were like, oh, wow, thanks so much for saying something nice. And I was like, really? Are families like calling in and being like, you guys are horrible? I was surprised, I guess, by that sense. And so I'm wondering, even from like a verbal acknowledgement, like a lot of us who are trying to do multiple things, but are hearing school get piped into the living room or whatever, like we can hear all of the ways that teachers are being patient and compassionate and trying to teach math and doing, all the different things they're doing. And I would like our community to more coordinate our efforts toward like even just acknowledging verbally what we hear and see teachers doing and staff.
Yeah, Kelly, thank you for that. I think that's so important. I'll reach out more to just to the community, but also to the PTA and just see how we can coordinate on that more.
I just had a quick question about, I know Gail Richards wrote an email about donations for clothing. And is there any need, I don't know if this is more Mr. D or Michelle or Katie question, but is there a need for like donation of books or maybe gently used items, toys? educational things for our community? And if so, what's the venue that we can distribute that?
Yes, books are always great to have, and the toys. Even some baby stuff. Now I have a couple families that had babies, so that would be nice to have. If they deliver it to the school, we can sort through it and see. I know Katie and Teresa did that before. I believe Vincent helped too, so we can get that. I think that'd be the best way to do it. Let us sort through and see what we can keep at Leschi. And I'm working with Dominique at his school and Keith at Bailey Gasser, working with the person that actually was on the email. I think Adrian, you sent whoever sent the email about gathering clothes. We've been working with her, so trying to find one location where we can store that stuff, get stuff needed versus at that one location. So, I mean, at one school. So that's in the process of going on, and we should meet with this individual hopefully by the end of this week. I can have more information at the next meeting for you.
Great.
Thanks.
All right.
But especially books like popular books that kids are like New Kid and Smile and all of like Babysitter's Club. Those books are well received and kids love to get them and have their own copy of it. So any of those books would be great to donate.
And then if we have it, we can always use the grab and go to pick stuff up, which I must say, has been very good. How when people need stuff and families can come pick stuff up that Friday, those Friday sessions, those 2 hours are very beneficial for the families to pick things up. So that's been a great resource for them to get things just besides the food and the gift cards. They can get numerous things at that one time. So that's one way we can get some of the clothing and the books out as well.
Yeah, and we'll someone else?
Oh, no, this is Michelle. I just want to, I don't know who I sent a message to Katie. Also earlier we was able to connect with the NAM, the National African American Museum, and they gave us a lot of free books. So I really want to make sure that we're focusing on some books that are by Black authors and that look like me, look like some of us. I don't know how we're gonna do it, but I really want to try to do that. And I have the ladies' information too, so I'll see how they're doing their book drive, because they do free books. So not necessarily like we have to purchase a whole bunch of books from them, but yeah, and it's a pretty good connect.
And the Rotary Club of Seattle actually donated some books I have in my office, and they're looking for do a second round. So we just need to get some titles so I can get that information to them so we can get their next round of donations.
Okay.
Black authors as well.
It's Lisa over here, and I just wanted to remind people that I don't know if you all know, but I believe the Atlantic Street Counseling Center is maybe a partner with Leschi, but they're outstanding and they have a wealth of resources. So if you or your family, I believe that they only accept Medicaid clients, and they are fantastic. The counselors will make every kind of allowance to and every kind of effort to meet you where you're at and meet you or your family or children on Zoom at all kinds of hours. So I highly recommend them.
And they've been working with us a few years. We have some of our students and families who are clients of theirs. So we've been working with them, Atlantic Street, Therapeutic Health Service, Odessa. So we have quite a few that we've been working with. But Atlantic Street, to piggyback, is a great organization. So thank you for that information.
I just put a link to that in the chat too. Okay, see, I knew we could get us to the end.
Oh, Ben, is there a PTSA meeting tomorrow? What is that?
So thank you, Michelle. I meant to mention that. So there is Zach. Well, there is the Effective Black Parenting workshop, which is every Thursday. And I think Miss Mason is on, so that she's been organizing. Unfortunately, also tomorrow night is a meeting with Zach DeWolf, who's the school board member for our district, District 5, and also the chair of the school board. I think I saw that, I mean, he has regular meetings with constituents, but I think the focus is going to be this sort of pilot outdoor education program. But I don't know for sure. So if I can dig that up, I'll send that around again. I believe I shared it on Facebook because that's the sort of best information that I had. But yeah, there is a meeting with him tomorrow that's open to community.
Okay.
Yeah, it is outdoor. It is about outdoor piloting outdoor learning, or having the conversation around it with community. Tomorrow at 6:30, I think you like register for it or something like that. But I wonder, is it going to be on Zoom, or I mean not Zoom, but it's going to be recorded on YouTube? You know how some of that is, because I'm going to be in the effective Black parenting meeting.
Yeah. The last meeting with him, I don't think was, but there were minutes sent around. But I'll find out what I can and resend or repost that as well.
Okay, thanks.
Any other, just on the sort of volunteer needs, we usually have a volunteer coordinator in a normal year when there's more school events and things. It's been, because it's a moving target this year and we weren't sure what we could and couldn't do with restrictions of changing. We hadn't had that same role, but for the short term, Mr. Dean and Ms. Reese and Mr. Lill, it sounds like there are a few potential needs that we might need to get out between maybe these distributions, of course, Giving Garland, and other collecting other donations as they come in to sort them. So I'll huddle with you all in the next couple of days, and then I'll resend. I just recommend to everyone that I'll resend the email on the volunteering for SPS process as well. So there are, in the vein of lifting up our teachers, for those who would like some support in or outside of the classroom online, you still need to have a background check to be interacting with students online. But I think that's something that some educators would like to take advantage of. So we'd like to build up that volunteer roster as well. And it's not a very onerous process beyond navigating the website, but the actual training doesn't take very long. Okay, we're 5 minutes over, so I don't want to keep everybody, but I really appreciate seeing you all and hearing everybody's thoughts and particularly the appreciations. Thanks, Mr. Liu, and everyone else, especially all the educators on the line here, for your time after a busy day. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll send the video out. I'll send this out tomorrow, and appreciate everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Benson.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right.
Thank you,
Good night,
everyone.
everybody. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, Benson. Nice work. Bye.
Benson, you saw the notes come through?
Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Much obliged. I'm gonna file the chat here, but it's also recorded.
I know. I have a personal question.
Yes. Well, there's 6 of us here, but if you don't.
I'm worried. Yeah, no. I'm worried about Miss T. I haven't Miss T.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I'm not sure. Has anyone heard from her?
Yeah, you'll be seeing Miss T soon. Yep, she's
she's around.
still
Okay.
working at the school. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Because I have everything. I haven't seen her, and I'm like, where is she? Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
night.
Thanks, Sadia.